All righty. Good morning, everybody. Glad to see you all. Lots of things to talk about and several introductions to do today. So let's just jump into it and get started. Um, as always, did I turn on recording? I did. Okay. All righty. So sorry about that. So first of all, as always, like to thank our sponsors, Care First Health Plan, Karen Ziegler Consulting Services, Valley Telecom, Khajiit, and Triad Wireless. Thank you guys for your support. I want to remind you all, and I'll probably do this several times during the day. Oops, just a second here. Caption. Okay. Why is the captions not showing?
Sorry, Steve, once you started, I turned them on from my screen, but do I need to stop them?
I don't know, Mark.
I'm hiding them. Maybe you can turn them on now.
Okay.
I thought you would have turned them on like you usually do.
Well, they should be turned on. I don't know why they're not showing up here. Anyway, we'll come back to it. But anyway, just jumping in, we got a lot of things to talk about today. So what I started to tell you was just a reminder that most of the things that are announced today are in the email announcement that I sent out. I know it's lengthy, lots of stuff, but if you want to find what people talked about events and things coming up and links, the most of those are in my email today, previous to this meeting, and then the others will be there when I send out the next announcement. So it's a good way to keep up with all the things that are going on because there are a lot of things. And so with that, I don't know, give me a second here. I want to find out why the captions are not showing. Okay, well, I'll keep working on that. In the meantime, want to just jump into it. We have a number of things to talk about. First of all, Megan, you want to introduce Anthony?
Sure. Thanks, Steve. I just wanted to introduce Anthony Costantini. He's the State Library's new digital inclusion library consultant. So Anthony, if you want to unmute and say hi.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm coming from ASU Library, where I was a public services coordinator for about a year. And then previous to that, I was at Scottsdale Public Library for a little over 4 years. I'm just happy to be here and working with everyone on digital equity.
Sounds great, Anthony. So we look forward to your regular participation in our meetings when you can. As you'll see, we do try to do regular updates. We'll add you to the list from the state library about regular updates from you. Anyway,
that's great.
And then I know, Aaron, you probably got some, I know you've got at least one or two new announcements also. And so let's just jump into the broadband office. And I don't think Sandeep's here. I haven't seen him yet. But Aaron, are you doing the update today?
Yep, Crystal and I are going to do a brief update from the broadband office, and then unfortunately we do need to hop off for another call as well. So I do apologize, but I just want to say welcome, Anthony. I'm so excited to get to know you more. Super briefly, I'll just start. We do have a new team member as well who was able to join today's call. We actually had 2 new people start this week, but Kelly joined us for today's call. And then our other person who started this week is Jamie Garrett. She is the Senior Broadband Program Manager, focused primarily on the infrastructure side of the BEAD program. And she will be joining a future meeting to meet you all. Just didn't work out with the schedules this week, but I would love to hand the floor over to Kelly to introduce herself. We are so excited she's joined us.
And as we
Thanks,
know,
Erin.
as we were talking about earlier, Kelly, we're so glad to have you back and joining us again. We missed you.
Well, thank you. Yes, I am back. Prior to Commerce Authority, I was at the Arizona Department of Education for about 2.5 years and was able to participate in this meeting. And now I'm at the Commerce Authority as the Community Engagement Manager for the State Broadband Office, which is very exciting. This is my first week, so I am drinking from the fire hose, but so excited to be here and excited to be a part of this group again. So thanks for having me, and nice to meet you, Anthony, as well.
And then otherwise, just super briefly from the DE perspective, and then I'll hand it over to Crystal to do a BEAD update. We are in our final updates, hopefully, for the digital equity plan. We are still on track to have that submitted back to NTIA in its final format by our due date, which is March 28th. And then very shortly thereafter, we don't have an exact timeline, but we do expect to see the notice of funding opportunity for the state to apply for the capacity grants, which will then precipitate a subgrant process, probably in the fall, but again, exact dates TBD on that. But of course, we will continue to share that information as we have it. In other general broadband news, many members of our team are kicking off our engagement tour. This next week, we will be in the northeastern portion of the state. We do have a flyer that we can share out with more information. I'll drop my email and Kelly's email in the chat so that we can share that flyer out with anyone who may not have seen it yet. I did send a copy to you, Steve, and I also sent it to the state library already. So a couple folks on this call have probably seen it.
Yeah, I did, excuse me, Erin, just a second. So I did include, I usually don't send attachments, but I did include the dates and times and the link in my email
Yes.
about those, excuse me, engagement tours. So.
I do appreciate that. Thanks so much. Just in case anyone would like a physical flyer, though, we do have one that can be printed and shared with community members if you are so inclined. Let's see here. So this is the first of 4 trips, right? So we're going to be going around the entire state, meeting with every county and every federally recognized tribe here in Arizona. So we've got our work cut out for us, but we are so excited to continue these relationships that we were able to start to foster during the digital equity plan writing and the BEAD plan writing portion. And now as we move more into the implementation of these programs, we're excited to get back out and make sure that what we're doing still aligns with all of the local efforts. So those are my super brief updates. And I do believe that Crystal is with us for a few more.
Hey, okay, so not much to comment on for the challenge process, but anybody that doesn't know what the challenge process is, it's an opportunity for folks to challenge the status of BEAD eligible locations. So if you go to our broadband page, azcommerce.com/broadband, go to the BEAD on the left side of the screen and then the challenge process. All of the materials related to the challenge process can be found there. And we also have our AZ Broadband Navigator map. So that's a map that shows basically all BEAD eligible locations. a BEAD eligible location is a location that receives less than 100 by 20 megabytes per second broadband services, and where there's not already a federal commitment there. So you can check that out. And if you have any questions, you can email us at broadband or AZ Commerce broadband email, or you can email myself.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal. Any questions for Aaron or Crystal? If not, moving on, I don't believe Nicole or Chris Vicente are on the call this morning.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are, Nicole. Didn't see you. Sorry. Haven't seen you in a while. So, got any updates for us?
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole Umayam. I'm the Federal Program Officer with NTIA for the state of Arizona. We're in the thick of all these processes the Broadband Office has laid out, but, as a reminder, I'm also here as a resource for stakeholders to answer questions about the BEAD program or NTIA, or as best as I'm able to facilitate connections with our other federal partners as well. But it's an exciting time. Please, if you're able to, help connect people with the challenge process information, because this is a really critical window, as everybody knows, to make sure that we're doing that appropriate ground truthing of the BEAD map to get all those right locations on there. And I think,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I know we had Chris speaking last week. Tomorrow is the deadline for the TBCP round 2 NOFO there. We can't really comment on the other digital equity NOFOs that are upcoming, but that would be about it.
So, Nicole, I believe you have a good PowerPoint or presentation about the challenge process. So does ACA. Do you guys, all that stuff online, and is that all on your webpage, Aaron?
Well, the Broadband Office has done a great job of building out resources for eligible challengers. A lot of that is built on NTIA's guidance, and a lot of it is tailored to Arizona. So if you go to their challenge page portal, you can get instructions on registering for the challenge process, and then they'll essentially link to the NTIA documents as well for some of the technical guidance around what constitutes challenges and that type of thing. But always happy to share more information. If you'd like another version of some of the challenge process stuff that we've presented before, I can certainly circulate that too.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Any questions for Aaron or Nicole?
Yes.
Steve, Mark Goldstein.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
So actually, I don't see PJ Way on the call today, but he's started both a LinkedIn post and some correspondence with some of us looking to initiate some dialogue with the Broadband Office and among us about the RDOF process. The FCC has just raised their expectations, to 100/20 universally, and RDOF is back in the 25.3 requirement days, and also there's continuing and ongoing issues with RDOF defaults. So the issue is how that will affect the availability of broadband serviceable locations for funding in the BEAD round, and whether there will be blocks of locations that are not available for funding but will not be served by RDOF in the end. And so some states have actually sent proactive letters to the RDOF recipients in their states seeking to engage on their commitment and their plans. And sorry, I'm raising this issue. I believe it is an issue, but on behalf of PJ, who is trying to initiate some dialogue. So I don't know if perhaps Aaron, we could inform Sandeep and see if there's an appetite for some focused discussion on that issue.
Yeah, I just wanted to pop in with a reminder that the State Broadband Office is hosting weekly office hours as well, which we can drop a link to. And those are one-on-one conversations built into the schedule directly with Sandeep and Crystal and Perla as necessary. And that might be a great way to start this conversation. Or of course, you are welcome to reach out, directly and we can get something on the calendar. We have a few ways to do that, I guess, is the short thing here.
Great. And perhaps, someone could reserve a specific office half hour and alert other people and make that a focus of one of those half hours. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, we can share that link too. Again, all of those links are all on the challenge process page, but it's a lot. So we can filter down for you and send that link to office hours.
Thank you.
And can I jump in as well? This is Tamara and from Resound Networks, and we do have RDOF, and we are actively building. And for all of our areas that we have RDOF, those are gigabyte speed networks. So we will be exceeding the RDOF obligations for the areas that we're covering. So I just wanted to jump in and say, not everyone's defaulting. And also just to point out that Sandeep's office has actively reached out to, I believe, and I can't speak for, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he's reached out to all of the vendors already, because we had our meeting with him, I want to say back in January, where we were asked to recommit and confirm that we are doing what we are obligated to do.
Great information, Tamara. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So Mark, you beat me to it. I was going to raise that issue, and I'm glad you did. Can you just go back for a minute and explain a little bit about RDOF and what it is, and maybe a little more understanding about what the issue is?
Yeah, I'm not intimately familiar with the program, but providers basically bid for the right to cover certain areas in a reverse auction mode and are getting substantial federal incentives to do that. But there have been a spate of winners and interesting losers like Starlink, who at first seemed to win, but then was disallowed. So there's a lot of flux in the areas that were offered and thus committed to. There are a spate of defaults going on and more expected. Frankly, I credit Tamara and those that are delivering on their RDOF commitments, but those areas under RDOF are taken out of the BEAD serviceable location, BEAD availability support model. And so if they fail to get their RDOF infrastructure in the timelines that were committed initially, they will be outside the BEAD funding window and remain unserved or underserved.
Yeah, I'll just add that this has happened in other states with true defaults where those providers have gone back and contested, hey, this enforceable commitment no longer stands, and releases those locations up for BEAD eligibility. So that is possible. I mean, ultimately, states have to rely on the FCC designation. So even as they're amassing evidence that maybe the build out's not going to happen, maybe it's, maybe there's other delays to impact that, they have to rely on that final FCC determination before they can remove it as an enforceable commitment or, amass the burden of proof. So this certainly is the space to watch. There's one more wave of deduplication efforts that will happen after the challenge process. So, as this stuff is really day by day, we could see that change to even beyond the challenge window. Ultimately, there's a line in the sand. The the map has to be the best it can get, and begin to open up those project areas.
So my follow-up will be to get back to PJ, alert him to the conversation I had initiated by his outreach to some of us, and suggest that perhaps we do schedule one of the broadband office hour sessions and invite a variety of people of interest to that to discuss. Though tomorrow I am glad to hear that the office has specifically engaged the RDOF recipients in the state and sought their recommitment or continued commitment to meet their goals. Thank you.
Oh, yes, they put our feet to the fire, so you can rest assured they're on it.
Okay, we need to move on. We have a couple of people who are going to have to leave us pretty soon. John, are you still on? John Kelly?
I'm here, Steve.
So you gotta leave us soon. So you want to give us an update, please?
Yeah, I just I don't know how serious this is.
John, can you introduce yourself real quickly?
Sure. My name is John Kelly. I am a principal with the government relations consulting firm Tri-Advocates. I'm the lobbyist for the ATIC group, as well as a number of other entities. But the state broadband office sits within the Arizona Commerce Authority. The Arizona Commerce Authority is up for its sunset continuation review by the legislature. It's had a lot of great support out of the House of Representatives on a bipartisan basis. But the Senate has been a different challenge. The Senate government chair, Senator Jake Hoffman from the Queen Creek area, has proposed to eliminate the ACA and most of its programs. He's running an amendment in a committee today, Senate Government Committee, on a bill, a strike everything amendment that would eliminate ACA, move most of its functions under the Office of Economic Opportunity, change the leadership of the ACA board to largely consist of small business members, would create a private right of action so anybody could sue the ACA for any of the economic development programs they have. The most innocuous thing in it is just simply transferring the ACA from transferring the state broadband office to the Department of Administration. Now, ACA is not formally a state agency. It operates under a different set of rules. So moving it from a non-state agency to a state agency may have some unforeseen consequences, both from a staffing standpoint and other standpoints. I don't see that as necessarily being the biggest problem with that amendment, but I wanted to make sure this group, which is so heavily focused on broadband, was aware of this issue today.
And the bill number, John, please.
House Bill 2471. I put it in the chat.
Thank you.
So John, is there really an appetite for this, or just one person who's kind of pushing this?
Well, he wouldn't be doing it unless there was some other support for it, but I don't think it's not going to go anywhere. I think the strategy is to the business community is putting in a lot of words of opposition to the proposal, but not giving it the time of day. But it's definitely a risk, but it's going to have to get worked out in the fullness of time with negotiations over budget and other must-pass kinds of things. But it's going to be ugly.
Thanks. Any questions for John? Okay, moving on. Judy Soltra with Mark Kelly's office. Judy, you still there? And can you give us an update?
Sure. Let's see. Right now, our office is really busy. This is the submittal time for cities, towns, and other jurisdictions to apply for congressionally directed spending. So these are projects that are funded either through existing grant programs, but they're a non-competitive process. So we have a deadline of April 5th. We just pushed it out. And so this is, we have funded broadband projects before, but I think a lot of jurisdictions are using you still have to qualify in the programs where it's available, if you will. So if it's a rural program, they still have to qualify under, USDA rural development. But our team, that's what's keeping us really busy right now, because we're fielding questions, and we do work with nonprofits at times, but we've coordinated with Senator Sinema's office. And so the process is a little more streamlined this year. If an entity submits, then they will Senator Sinema's office will be looped in. So, all submissions will be seen by both senators at the same time. And that's really our update. It looks like they've reached agreement on the budgets. They're, I'm not sure if the vote will happen tomorrow, but we're still waiting to find out. There's a waiting period. So there may be a few days here where officially the government will be shut down, but it will probably be over the weekend. And yeah, that's it for right now. I know we were in DC last week with the TikTok ban, was being voted on, and I think it comes in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee early next week. Yeah, and then the senator just announced a lot of funds for the CHIPS Act. It looks like they are going to start funding those coming in. I think that it brings like 2,000 jobs to Arizona. And yeah, it's for national security. And that's all I got.
Anything, Judy, on ACP from the senator's perspective in office?
Well, I don't have an update on that yet. I don't know if it was included. I know that he supports it and has written letters, but you know what? Our team has been really focused on these funding requests. And so we haven't had a breakdown, but at this point, I haven't heard that it's in. So that's the news. I'll let you know as soon as we get the information. I keep asking, so I know it's very important, and the senator surely supports that. It makes so much sense.
Steve, Mark.
Yeah,
this is Marla. I'm the state E-rate coordinator for public libraries. I do have some news for ACP, which I saw in the Communications Daily. They report that the additional funding for ACP is not included in the 2024 appropriations, the minibus package that Congress will take up later this week. The White House also has reached an agreement for the funding, and they say that this is not in that package. And also the things that we were looking for in E-rate, the rip and replace, the Huawei and other products from China that we are expected to rip and replace with the allowable products. That's also not in the package. So
right, that's the $3 billion gap from the initial funding to rip and replace Huawei and other Chinese equipment. I think there was about $5 billion or $4 billion, but there was a $3 billion gap.
Right. And that's also not included in the packet. So that's not good news.
Elena, do you have anything more to add about that?
Nope, that was my report, Steve. Thanks, Mala.
So the president was just here in Arizona. Go ahead.
I put some of the information in the chat in case anybody wants to see what didn't catch everything Mala just said. So if they want, I don't have the link right here, but Communications Daily was reporting it yesterday.
Yes.
So you can look up that article if you'd like.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm with Common Sense Media. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the Arizona director. Sorry, Steve.
No problem.
You were gonna tell me to introduce myself anyway.
I never do that. Okay, so as I mentioned, as most of you probably know, the president was here in Arizona yesterday, day before. I lost track of time here, but he and of course the senator I think was here also announcing the grants and loans for Intel and the new fab and the development that they're doing here in Arizona. So that's pretty exciting. Well, they're doing it actually. I guess Intel has 4 sites, including my son working with them in Portland. Anyway, moving on. Anything else? Any questions before we move on? So if not, I want to jump on to our update this morning and welcome Brian Fickett, who's the general manager of the Tohono O'odham Nation Utility Authority. And with that, Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I believe you have something to share. And so I will stop sharing.
Okay, thank you. Let me get my screens pulled up here.
While he's doing that, so this actually is a continuation. Last week we had some presentations about what's happening in Indian country, and so this is a good follow-up to that. So go ahead, Brian.
All right, so I'll just kind of give a brief overview of the utility authority. A lot of people don't understand or know we even exist, and we are the utility that provides well, we're a unique utility. We've got all these different services that we provide for the Tohono O'odham Nation. Back in the 70s, the leadership of the tribal leaders they saw what the Navajos were doing with their utility authority, and they took that model and designed that model for the Tohono O'odham Nation. So we've got the services that we cover. I'll get to here in just a little bit, but we've got 4,400 square miles of territory that we cover. The reservation is basically the size of the state of Connecticut. We've got approximately 35,000 tribal members. That number varies depending on which statistics that you're reading. We employ 110 employees. We've got 91% of those employees are tribal members. And the tribe is broken into 11 different districts. So each district has kind of their own set of rules that we have to go by. It's almost like working for different states. The different services that we provide is we've got electric service and the whole reservation, the Tohono O'odham, as far as reservations are concerned, is a little different than most reservations because we have 100% of our housing, well, close to 100% of our housing and commercial buildings have electricity. We got 4,000 services in total, and about on the residential side, there's about 3,200 services that we serve out of that 4,000. On the water side, we have around 3,360 services that we serve, and that includes some commercial. And those services are broken down into 26 different commercial water systems, and we have an additional 5 non-commercial water systems, which are non-commercial or ones that have 5 or fewer customers hooked up to them. And those different commercial water systems, they're all individual. They've got their own tanks, their own wells. So it takes a lot for us to manage. We also have wastewater lagoons, and we've got 1,960 services that are connected to our lagoons. The rest of the services, our houses or commercial buildings, have septic tanks. We're not in charge of any of the septic tanks. The Indian Health Services is in charge of the septic tanks for the nation. We also serve 700 customers on propane. That's a mixture of commercial and residential customers. And then on the telephone side, we've got around 3,300 access lines, which is commercial and residential. And then we have, currently we have about 1,300 customers of broadband. And today I wanted to bring to you the broadband side of it, but just kind of to show the electric side. We, in the past, we've really dealt with grants on the telecom side and the water and wastewater side. The water and wastewater infrastructure was all funded by Indian Health Services, and we continue, or the EPA.
I'm just looking at question 80, and it says senior responses to 71 and 72, but I think 71 and 72 are in later priorities.
Who is that that's speaking? Can you please?
It looked like Brian Daly.
71 and 72.
Anyways, the water and wastewater infrastructure, like I say, has all been providing funded through Indian Health Services. The electric side, we've not really had any grant funding on that until the last couple of years. And now the grant funding has really been active with some of the legislation that's passed in the legislature. And so we're now, that's kind of where I'm focusing my duties at right now, is going and getting grant funding on the electric side and the telephone side. So between those two, we stay very busy. Going to the telephone side, what's really interesting is back in the 80s, the utility authority created its own telephone company. It is an FCC regulated telephone company. This is a map of the main reservation, which is the territory for our telephone company. There is a couple other areas that we do not cover for telephone, which is the Sanavir district, which is just south of Tucson, where the Sanavir mission is. And we've got a little district just in the Florence area. It's called Florence Village. And in Gila Bend, we get the San Lucie district. And we don't serve either one of those two currently, but we are looking at opportunities that we can serve those villages. But when you look at this map is a very busy map, but if you look at it's got really highlights all of our villages that we're at. And we do have fiber running completely all the way through the nation. Our fiber is the magenta or color, purple color. Right now, what we're doing is working on our fiber to the home projects, which is replacing a lot of the copper that's in some of these villages. We just got a Reconnect 3 grant through the USDA, around $10 million. And then we've got around $3 or $4 million from the Arizona broadband group through the ACA. And both of those projects will get us pretty much around 91% fiber to the home. And then we have put in an application, or in the process of putting an application into NTIA for the TVCP grant, which is a tribal broadband grant, to finish our fiber to the home projects and provide fiber from our main reservation to the Sanavir district, and then run fiber all around the Sanavir district, because currently they have some copper that's being served by CenturyLink. We want to replace that and have fiber running through all that whole village. But in the meantime, if you see the numbers on here, that represents our fixed wireless system that we recently have launched, and we're about 99% complete. This fixed wireless system is running off of a 2.5 network and a 3.65. The 2.5 is the spectrum that TLUA purchased several years ago. FCC opened an auction up for the 2.5 on the reservations, and we were lucky enough to get that 2.5. The 3.65 network is an unregulated network. The plan is that we're going to put this wireless system even in the Sanvere and San Lucie and Florence Junction villages. So that will be any place we don't have funding to put broadband. This is a stopgap for those areas. And then once we have the fiber built in, we're going to use this network as a backup and redundancy system. And eventually my plan is, in my vision is that a village member can walk from their house to into the village to the rec center or somewhere and never lose connection, be able to use their own account and have fiber or access to the internet. Now, with all of this infrastructure that we've got in place, one of the challenges is education. And it's very interesting in today's world that we've got people on the reservation that do not understand what internet or broadband services are. And that has been a challenge. And luckily, we've partnered with the community college, with the Tohono O'odham Community College, who received an NTIA grant. And they have put together a program where they're giving laptops to participants in the program, teaching them how to turn the laptop on, how to set up email, and really teach them all the functions that are things that they can do with broadband. Because this is something that, especially in our elderly community, they just don't understand it, and a lot of them are a little concerned about even getting out on the internet, if they even know what it is. One of the other things we got to tackle is the feasibility of this. We've got about 55% of our customer base is low income, and the tribe does provide a subsidy to these low income folks and the elders. But the subsidy really only covers their water and electric bills, and really doesn't cover their broadband. With the ACP program, we've had close to 400 people on that program, and on tribal country, that's $75 off of their telephone and internet bill. But that's going to be a challenge going forward, because those folks that's another $75 they're going to have to pay without the ACP program. Some of them don't take advantage of the full 75 because of subsidies and other programs that we're able to get them on. But that's a challenge, and we're trying to figure out how we can come aside and really compensate or put something in place of the ACP program. But all of our funding comes basically from grants or the tribal members. So it's a challenge. It's a very big challenge. So that's kind of a highlight of TOUA. There's a lot of good things out there going on. One of the other things that's happening is we are on the electric side. We are we're putting together a plan that will allow us to use this fiber network to be able, and wireless network, to be able to communicate to our substations and communicate to the outside world and then we want to take this infrastructure and be able to put microgrids and battery storage in different areas of the reservation, be able to control those devices, and eventually reduce our peaks, on the electric side, which is very costly, and provide some of our own power on the reservation itself. So it's a very interesting time to be in the utility business, and looking forward to more funding and more help out here. But we're changing lives every day with all the utility services that we're providing and adding to the system. So if there's any questions, I'm open to questions.
Amazing stuff, Brian. You guys are doing great work. So Brian, where is there mobile service on the reservation?
There is cellular. We don't provide it, but we manage what cell companies can come on the reservation, and where they put towers at and that type of stuff. But if you go out there on the Highway 86, there is some dead spots on the reservation. And then if you go up north also, like if you're going from Sells to Casa Grande, there's a couple areas that are really dead spots for cellular. And we currently are working with some cell companies to fill in those sites.
So are you seeing transition, as we have with almost every place, that people were dropping their landlines and moving towards mobile? Is that happening on the reservation at this point?
It's happened to some degree, but not like it has off the reservation. And some of that's because of the ruggedness of the territory and the lack of cell coverage in some of the areas. Because there's like on this map, there's Manager's Dam and Papago Farms. Those are down right on the border, and there's not much out in those areas. And Manager's Dam, we do have a cell tower in that location, but it only serves that little area, and so it's one of those things. If you ever have a chance and have time just to take a drive, just go down Highway 86, and you can see the vastness of a rural area that we do serve in.
That's pretty amazing stuff. Questions for Brian? Brian, do you want to stop sharing and people
Yeah, I will
chat with you? So any questions or comments for Brian?
Yeah, I was going to ask Brian, what does a tribal member pay for fiber to the home service? How much do they have to pay for the service?
Currently the 100, of course we got 25 and 2 service, but if you do the 100 to 3, it's a little over $100, or the 120. I'm sorry, yeah. And actually, even from my house, I live really right next to the reservation in a rural part of Tucson, and I don't get as good a service as most of the areas on the reservation. So it's kind of interesting. And I pay a lot more than $100 for the service I have. So it's one of those challenges because the price is high, but and we're working on looking at that rate structure and how we can manage that. But it's pretty phenomenal, though, the type of service that we do offer for the vast ruralness area. So
yeah. So you said the bandwidth is something like 100 megabits?
Yeah, it's 120, 100 download and 20 upload.
Okay.
That's our top tier.
Okay, so you could go well beyond that, I guess, but that's what you're offering with fiber to the home. Yeah.
That's the highest speed that we have right now. We've got 25.3 service and some others in between there, but
I see.
Okay, moving on. Thank you, Brian.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Michael.
Hi, Michael Holcomb, Arizona Telemedicine Program at the U of A. Just a quick question. Wondering how the ACP funding running out might be affecting the utility as a provider, if that's an effect for you at all, or for the carriers that you have on for cellular coverage.
For one of the things that we've struggled with is we do compete with the cellular companies for that ACP program because they can only sign up for one utility. But as far as the total utility as TOUA, we receive around $20,000 a month in ACP funding. So that's how much is being supported by our tribal members. So that's a good chunk of change for us.
Yeah, I read somewhere that some, maybe not necessarily in Arizona, but that some tribal carriers, might be really a significant problem for them to continue operating if the ACP is not continued. So anyway, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Brian before we move on? If not, let's jump to some of our updates with the state library. And Mama, before we get to you, let's do Megan real quick. Megan, do you have anything besides the introduction you've already made today?
I think that was it, Steve. I was just wanting to welcome Anthony. Thank you.
Okay, great. Mama, I know you always have great stuff to share with us.
I'm not quite sure, but yes, right now I'm working on getting all our applicants to finish their applications on time. 27th of March is the deadline for submitting E-rate applications for the cycle starting July 1, 2024 to June 30th of 2025. So hopefully we will get them all in on time. We are still working on some contracts and things like that to make sure that the applications are complete and submitted. Having said that, the Navajo Nation chapter houses sites, I did mention even last time, we are still having problems with the ROW, that's the right-of-way issues, as well as the stability of the poles in some areas where we cannot, put fiber under the ground. So let's hope that we get another year's extension. This is the fiber build-out extension that was approved like 2019, 2020, and it's been so many years since that E-rate approval has happened, and we're still not able to finish that project. So every year we've been applying for extensions and trying to sort the issues out. Hopefully, and this year at least we'll be able to complete as much of it as we can. I also wanted to draw attention to the Benton Institute. They have actually brought out a how to build a public broadband network report in their blog, and it's really worth seeing. They publish, it's like a handbook on building public broadband networks. Be really useful as we proceed with the BEAD build out. When it happens, this is a good time for us to be reviewing those kind of documents. They've done a study of what has been successful, what has been cost effective. It's a complex dynamic landscape, and this actually puts policy, technology, and finance all together in that one report. They've studied about 1,155 applicants that have requested for self-provisioning fiber networks, and they're using that data to create this report. Really interesting report, and I would recommend that we look at it. I will put the link in the chat once I'm done talking.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I've actually been thinking that we might want to do a session on municipal networks and the pros and cons and benefits and issues with municipal networks.
That'd be lovely. That'd be lovely. And if we can get someone from Benton Institute to present this, that would be the report. That would be even more interesting to see how they put it together.
Thanks for sharing that. I'll definitely look into that.
No problem. And just the one other thing that I'd like to share is that there was a discussion during our Shelby meeting about FCC 706 report. For those who are not aware, this report comes out every other year. And the 706 report usually talks about changes in speed standards, in broadband speed standards. And it opens the doors for suggesting higher broadband definition for anchor institutions as well as the non-anchor institutions. The anchor institutions are currently stuck at 1 gig as the standard. Shelby's recommendation, Shelby is schools, health, libraries, broadband. I said that before you asked me, Steve.
I wouldn't do that.
Shelby is looking for schools and libraries as well as other anchor institutions by definition in the BEAD program to go up multi-gig standards. Of course, which means that all of the underserved will become unserved or low served, and most of the served will go into underserved, which is, that is a challenge. But again, looking forward, that 5 years down the line, or even a couple of years down the line, I think that standard benchmark has to be upgraded. So I'm really excited that they're even thinking about it and thinking of doing, inviting suggestions on that. So back to you, Steve, unless there are any questions for me.
Any questions for Mala? Okay.
Is that 706 report, Mala, was that the report where they raised the home broadband definition to 120 recently from 25.3? Is that?
I haven't, I haven't been able to open the report to look at all of the details. Right now, I think if anyone goes on to the press release of this report, it does not open up. It gives you an error. So I've got it bookmarked and I'm waiting for it for them to make that error go away. So let me just put the link in the chat, and then once it clears the error, you should be able to see the details. So I can tell from reports that I read is that they are actually considering long-term effort, considering changing this for the long term.
Okay, let's move on because it's getting kind of late. Any other quick questions from Ala before we move on? Okay, let's jump on Michael Holcomb. Want to give us an update on what's happening with the telemedicine program?
I see really no updates today. Just would extend kind of our ongoing invitation to anyone working on improvements to rural broadband infrastructure, telehealth, healthcare in rural and underserved areas to collaborate. We're happy to co-sponsor, help get the word out through our networks and host events, things like that. So if that's of interest, please let us know. Thank you.
And Michael, you have a council meeting coming up soon, if I'm not mistaken.
We do, April 17th. Briefly, we're going to be hearing, we'll get the agenda out, posted pretty soon, but it's remote patient monitoring from Desert Sanita, gaps in broadband from our Associate Director for Telehealth Law and Policy, Tara Sklar, Children's Hospital discussing cost mitigating uses of Alexa for telehealth, and the American Indian Health AHEC discussing their strategic plan are the main items on the agenda.
So that's the Arizona Telemedicine Council, and it is open to anybody who wants to participate. And again, that link and communication is available in my newsletter. So with that,
thanks very much.
You bet. So anything else that anybody has? I think we're getting out of time here.
Steve, Mark,
yeah, Mark.
Two quick things. I posted earlier and Mala just posted a link as well. There's an interesting report out of Benton, I think 40 pages or so, Own Your Own Internet, How to Build a Public Broadband Network. So for tribes or communities interested in that, it's a good basic guide, lays it out pretty clearly on what's involved for those kind of entities. And then I also posted a link. There's an international cybersecurity conference here in May 8th to 10th, ISACA's. It's pretty expensive and it's for IT cybersecurity professionals and managers, but thought there might be some interest in that.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple other things, but Elena, you want to give us a quick update on Aiden?
Yeah. So just really quick, sorry about the dog, somebody's at the door. Just really quick, we've been discussing life after ACP and helping, trying to figure out ways to help organizations help their clients. And then Cindy wanted me to remind everybody about an event in Tucson. And Steve, I will forward you that information. I know we're out of time, so I'll forward you that information. It's a digital inclusion event, and you can include it in the newsletter.
Yeah, and I do have that too, Elena, and I will include it in the.
Oh, you do? Okay, great. That
Yep.
was it. Just if
Yep.
anybody's got any ideas about what they're doing to help their customers and clients after ACP, we're putting together kind of a tip sheet, I guess you could say. So.
So Mark, as we were talking about the municipal networks and so forth, and the Benton report, I'll be in touch with Drew, who many of you know have been participating with us. We miss him, by the way. I know he's got different things going on, but he would be an ideal person for us to connect with about.
And actually, Drew's going to be in town, Steve, Monday and Tuesday for, he's on a panel with Mark and I. And then also the Digital Equity Institute gala is Monday night, and he'll be at that. And then I think he's staying with Gigi Sohn. They'll be here, and I think they're staying for the that ASU summit, Smart Region Summit, that I put the information in the chat already.
Okay. That's good to know that he'll be in town. So I will try to connect with him. And like I said, it's a topic that I had actually been thinking that we needed to have some discussion about. Okay. Anything else? Anything I missed? Anything else anybody wants to share before we end for today? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Well, I'm going to stop recording, and